Well, any anything you would like to say off the bat before we start here, or?
I'm excited. We're excited to be in Columbia, South Carolina. We've never been in South Carolina before, so this is very exciting for us.
Yeah, I concur with T on that, and the fact that we get to be on a bill with Sunrise Orchestra and Titus Andronicus, and clap your hands and say, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I hear that Columbia has some pretty good barbecue.
I don't know about that one yet. That's what I hear too. I haven't been proved or disproved of that yet. But how did you end up at Jam Room, if I may ask?
I guess the curator, Trey, during the pandemic when our last record came out, The Cycle, he loved the record, and he reached out to us when they started putting together the festival. And yeah, he reached out to us pretty early to get us involved, and we said yes, and kind of came up with a little bit of a run so we can get down there, and yeah.
So is this a stop along a series of shows that you're doing here? Or
we're gonna be doing a total of 4 shows, including Jam Room. So we'll play Jam Room, and then we'll head to Durham, North Carolina, and play at Pinhook.
Okay.
And then we'll be in Asheville, and we'll play this new place called Isis Music Hall. And then we'll be playing in Winston-Salem at this punk club called Monster Cave with a rad little bill of bands. They'll all play probably like 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll play. It's going to be interesting. But we kind of like that when the genres all mix up. So, yeah.
Nice.
Then we'll head home.
Where's you have it listed that you're out of Cleveland. Are you all local to the Cleveland area?
Yeah, we all live in Cleveland, based out of here. Yeah, and I think the majority of the band, with the exception of myself, was born and raised in Cleveland. I'm from El Paso, Texas.
Maybe cool. You and maybe Pete as well.
Oh, right, that's right, Peter's from Boston.
So besides those two, we're all born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio.
Very nice. So how did you all come to playing together?
Let me see.
Well, our A is of the group.
Yeah. Yeah. I came up with it. And then I asked LaToya Kent if I wanted to make an orchestra, and she was like, I'm down if you make it happen. And kind of started from there. And then it really took off once we got Teresa, May, William Washington, Dante Foley, and Pete Saldick involved. But for maybe about 6 months, it was just me and LaToya Kent, Kyle Kidd, and James Longs. And we kind of were just like head down, don't even think about what's going on, and just try and make it happen. But we started to notice that people really liked it once we added the rest of the people. So it's been kind of like a magical run so far.
Yeah, you do definitely have a rather unique at the moment sort of sound.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I listened to you all a little bit before, and then when I was asked if I wanted to do you guys' interview, I was completely on board. I was like, that would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, you have a very well developed and established sound, I think. And where would you say you draw your influences from for that?
I think it's a very interesting blend of, Black music from all kind of eras, and then, adding in with some avant-garde tendencies, and, I think it's kind of founded in like a little bit of the principles around the Black arts movement of the 60s, and, some of the free jazz players. But then it also has like a very interesting nod because of Theresa May and Kyle Kidd toward classical music and opera and performance, from that point of view. So, I've been thinking of it as progressive soul.
That's kind of how it struck me as well.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely can pick out a lot of things that I would say stem from that 60s jazz movement into later 80s Miles Davis, some of that, and definitely a lot more progressive than that was then, though, obviously.
Yeah, I definitely say it's a good mix of kind of everything and all Black music. I think we're a unique group because we all come from different music backgrounds. Like LaToya Kent was heavily into the punk scene, and like Ari said, Cal and I have been into and are into opera and classical music. I'm classically trained, but also into jazz, and we're all into hip hop. So, James Long's huge David Bowie fan. So it's like we all have all these things that we love and music that we listen to in different styles that are just a part of us, and it comes through the music that we make.
Very nice. When you say classically trained, what on an instrument or as a vocalist?
Yes, I'm the trumpet player. Yep. So I went to school for trumpet. Both my degrees are in classical trumpet. And then once I graduated, I started just playing everything else.
Gotcha. When did you start playing trumpet?
I started playing trumpet when I was 9. So I've been playing trumpet for 29 years now, which is crazy to think about.
Very cool. What drew you to it or made you stick with it?
My father was my first trumpet teacher, and he played all the instruments in church. He played drums, he would play bass, he played piano, and he mainly played trumpet and cornet. So I wanted to play because my father played.
That still impresses me, even though I know you. I just see. I've been like, oh man, her father taught her. That's cool.
Yeah. I know when I was a kid, my father used to make me play all these hard songs and hard duets, but now I can like make him play all the hard stuff. So paybacks.
Looks like LaToya just joined us. Hey, LaToya.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Thank you for joining us.
For sure.
So I think I just asked Theresa May what her inspiration getting into music was. Would you mind sharing what yours is too, or?
I like to say that I'm possessed by a music spirit, but I started writing first. So I started writing when I was pretty young, and I grew up in the church. And so growing up in the church, you're always made to do some type of solo singing piece. But I grew up in a Baptist church, but I also grew up in a Catholic church. And so I really enjoyed the energy of some of the hymns, the vibration of them. And so I think that they both played a part in what I wanted to hear from my voice. But my first love is and has always been the words.
So the words are more important to you in your music than actually singing them?
I enjoy yes and no. I enjoy the way that creatively you can bend the words. So the words have a double sensation. You have the ability to speak the words and have a meaning behind the words, but then you also get to bend the words into a configuration that feels comfortable for your voice or your body or your mouth.
Sure.
So I both of those parts of the recitation of the words.
I like that about y'all, the vocalists in Mourning and BLKstar. We have songs where the vocalists sing the same lyrics, but I honestly didn't even know that until probably like my fourth year of performing the songs, because y'all all sing them differently and put them on different words, so it makes it sound totally different.
And in this band, there's like a beautiful fluidity in presentation. So we, the horns are solid, the drums are solid, and sometimes the other instruments can kind of bend a little bit. And the voices are an instrument too. Like the voices play very much in line with the horns. The horns sing just like we sing. And so we are like two levels of a chorus together, and then other pieces come in and are also a part of that chorus. But we definitely sing back and forth to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. I do notice that almost polyphonic vocal effect. I think it adds a nice touch, definitely.
Yes.
How did you come to play with the band?
I have been friends with Ari for a long time. We went to high school together, and we have been making music for a long time. And he approached me after a Shabazz Palaces show and said, hey, I want to do this thing. I want to do this like Black orchestra with like a bunch of singers and a bunch of horns. And I was like, yeah, I'm down. And we went into the studio and we recorded Black music. And the beautiful part about it was I didn't really know. We kind of went in not really knowing exactly what it was going to sound like on the end. James Long was in that session. Kyle Kidd was present, but as my just came to support me basically, and wasn't a part of the band at that time. And he called me back after the recording was done and said, hey, like, you want to make this a band? And I'm like, sure. James was down. And then he said, maybe we could have like a background singer. So we brought Kyle in. And then that was like the roots of Mourning of BLKstar, the four of us. And then we started to add everybody from that place. I think Pete was first, and then the horns, and then Dante. But yeah, it sounds really beautiful and it sounds really different. And each album that we make is a stepping stone from that place, but also reminiscent. They're all reminiscent of each other. We started to realize that we had an actual sound.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I've asked the other two. What got you into music?
I didn't know that you were allowed to play music unless like some kind of labels put you together. I didn't know that people just form bands. So I was like 29 years old before I even played music. I started off as just as a writer. When I wrote poems and novels and plays, and then I hooked up with some friends of mine, and they were like, "Hey, we're starting this free jazz band." And then you used to play trumpet in the 5th grade, and hey, how you doing? Good to see you too. And then it kind of just took from there, and like we practice every Monday and Wednesday from noon to 5 o'clock. And we did that for like 2 years straight before we even played a show. And then every practice, one of my bandmates, either Lawrence or Chris Colsar, would hand me a mixtape of stuff that they had heard or knew about that they thought I would resonate with, or they would one mixtape had a bunch of Don Cherry on it. And they're like, "You kind of sound like Don Cherry," and I was like, "Don Cherry? Who the hell is that?" And then and I just fell in love with the process of the practices, and they kind of like opened up my imagination to that you could just make bands, and B, that there was a place for people that were not trained to play music. And I don't know, I just fell in love with the process of it. And they just encouraged me to do little stuff like our band was called Vernacular, and we had an alter ego band called Big Black Africa, and that was a punk band. So we would switch instruments, and they were like, "You should sing." So I started singing in that and writing lyrics. And then people would ask me to write lyrics for them, or, contribute in that way. And I started doing that. And it just kind of like grew from there. I just, seriously, like my favorite thing. I'm so thankful to those cats for opening up my imagination. It's a lot of things that, class and race kind of like prevents you from learning about. And they were just very open, and they were like, "No, you don't have to see the world from that point of view. Like, this is for all of us, and you can tap in." And just that spirit and that kind of like devotional practice regimen I brought with me to everything. And I don't know, over the years, I just got more and more skills and tried more things and ended up here. Yeah.
Kind of how that goes. So that really inspired you when they picked you up and were like, "Hey, you can do whatever you want," basically.
Yeah, and then, not only, it's one thing to say to somebody, "Hey, you can do stuff," but they will give you blueprints and models, and they were actually giving me advice, thinking about me when they were giving it, as opposed to just like a nebulous advice. And just being very encouraging and not being kind of like information lords. So I just try to like adopt that principle in how I operate as a person. And it's been amazing to look at the world that way, because it really helps you balance like the personal ego, things that you need to be able to settle for yourself versus how you show up in the world. And it gives it like a sense of service and devotion that I think really taps into the spiritual aspects of it. And like, I really believe it saved my life.
Where were
So
you before that, if I may ask?
Huh?
Where were you before that, if I may ask?
I was like caught in the cycle of trying to be a professional writer and like writing books for small presses. And I got a book deal very young. My first book came out when I was 17, and then I got a book deal with Norton for 2 novels. And when I saw the press release for the first novel and the way they were talking about me, I just was like, well, this is not necessarily true. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you're trying to play it like I learned how to write in the streets. And like, although I am aligned on that level, I was a poor kid. I grew up in the inner cities, I always was able to like be involved in like cool shit. So I kind of felt that they were missing the boat, that I'd had like an education early on that they weren't taking into account. And I didn't want to like misrepresent. So
They tried to blockbuster it.
Huh?
They tried to blockbuster it, like
Yeah.
make the same story with you again. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot.
They tried to
It's
sell
not-
you as a writer for something that you really weren't.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to say that someone's creativity is self-taught. That's fine. But I also grew up and my parents in the military, so I went to military academy. So like, I don't know many street kids that get introduced to Latin. They have to read the classics. They have to get up in the morning at 6 in the morning and wear a uniform and do PT, and so there was a lot of things, elements of my growing up that weren't getting taken into account. And I felt like it was, although the money was going to be good, I felt a little bit weird about it, and I didn't feel like it was true. So I kind of was mired in that place, like, trying to make a way in an industry, in a world that's kind of set up to kill poor people and people of color. And I was like buying into certain hegemonies, and they freed me up from it.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for asking. People don't ask me that.
Well, normally when I come into an interview, I have a little bit more of an idea of who I'm interviewing. I apologize, I'm a little unprepared, but these are the questions that I really want to know, is what makes you who you are. So doing my best to get to that as I can. But
No, you're doing a great job, family.
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that. Thank you. So all of these formative experiences for you, how do you try to portray that now with the band?
I think and everybody else can chime in and see, if they want to add anything to this. But I think for me personally, it just starts with being encouraging, and maybe considering space. So instead of like saying, this is the song and this is what I want it to be, I say, this is some ideas or a sketch of a song. And then I invite my bandmates to create within that. And the things that they come up with oftentimes either answer a melody line or fix a proposition or add a meta text to it. And it's very magical from the standpoint of like, wow, it seems so composed when really it was us improvising on, you know, on a starting point and then remembering what we did, and that creates the song. So it very much is everyone is writing the songs.
So it's definitely a big collaboration between the whole band.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's no real way within the business of Capitol to highlight what you're doing, except, you know, in music business, there's the writer, there's the producer, there's the performer.
Right.
And those are the ways that they figured out how to pay people or not pay them. And we undermine all of that. And I feel like that's what I'm bringing to the table, like the spirit of trying to undermine that. And maybe your emotions internally are not there, but the ideal is in your brain, and you're just working your body to be in sync with the ideal. And, you know, people have a hard time with trying to like break apart industry without being like combative. And I feel like we've figured out a way to trouble that somewhat, because you can't really say, well, that's the writer and that's the producer. So the music industry kind of doesn't really know what to do with us. And you really can't rob us in the same way that you could rob in the past, because it's all of us. And as long as we keep that energy, you know, as a Black band, we become an institution because our songbook becomes our own songbook. And over time, maybe there'll be bands that cover our songs when they need to mourn something or celebrate something, because we've kept our songbook together. And that right there is like a different kind of legacy building, a different kind of community legacy building that is very interesting.
Yeah, it's like continuing on like group work. I remember I was talking with one of my friends, and we were saying how there are a lot of people who like to do legacy work, but only for their self, which is fine. But like group work is also legacy work, and it can be done, and it can be done gracefully where everybody gets everything they need. So that's what this is.
I
agree on the legacy work. One of the things that has always been, since being in this band, that has like such a magical piece is the ability to not only have this large catalog, but to be in the room together and to trust what everyone's piece is. Like no one steps on anyone's toes. It's very cohesive. And I like to say magical because it does feel that way. It's like a piece and then another piece gets added on, and then it becomes this thing. And it's beautifully organic and magical. And everybody does have an element of themselves in it. It's like having each person's essence alive within the piece and the arrangement of each individual song that exists.
Gotcha. So you're very, everybody owns their piece. If somebody wasn't there, you would just be missing that entirely. Or getting a notification from Zoom. I apologize. We may get kicked out because of the time limit, but that'll be in 8 minutes-ish. So what do you all see as the highlight of playing together in your time so far?
Solidarity. solidarity and being like appreciated, respected, and seen. Yeah, I think I would like to say that everybody, from knowing each individual person in this band, we're all like a little bit different and a little bit weird. And so we all came together and we understand each other on a specific level, a beautiful level. We protect each other. It feels very much like family, but it also feels like a gang, a musical gang at the same time, a collective. This word collective is very sacred. Yeah.
I like all that. That's cool.
For me, it is like the amount of creativity that's accepted. Like as a freelancer, most of the time, if I'm playing with another group, I'm just given things to play, and my input is not welcomed or valid. You know, you just play what's there on the stand. But in this collective, like I remembered that I'm a creative at heart who happens to play trumpet, and I'm able to be creative still, which is, you know, being in school for so long as a classically trained musician was something that kind of left my body for the duration of my time in academia. So I appreciate that most about this band. Is it's like a constant reminder that I am a creative at heart, and I need that.
Did you go to school for music?
I did, yeah.
Where did you go?
I went to the University of Dayton, and Mourning at BLKstar did a concert at my alma mater there. And then I went to Cincinnati Conservatory of Music for my master's.
Very cool. A lot of people that have gone to school for music kind of agree that the way they teach you to play in that classically trained style kind of takes something from you in the creative way, because they teach you to play in such a strict manner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely had to learn that I could do what I wanted. So it took me like 2 years after moving back to Cleveland after my graduate studies that I was like, oh yeah, I can play however I want. I own this trumpet. I can play it however I like, however I want to, and it's fine. No one's going to tell me it's the wrong way. No one's going to tell me I have to sound like this. So it's still something that I forget now, but definitely way more open and able to be creative now.
Definitely. That's great.
I have nothing to add to either of those statements other than I think that, I mean, it's just a blessing to be in community with people like that, and like Teresa and Latoya and the rest of the band. But there's something pretty special about the information share that occurs with people that have different backgrounds that I really value. And I've learned so much. And I don't know. I can totally tell from like the start of the band to today just how much musical information and life information I've learned from the band. And so it's very humbling to be a member. And I'm a big fan of each person and what they bring to the table individually and what they're doing in the world. Like, you know, I'm always looking over in practice at Teresa to see if they immediately start playing on something, then I know it's good. And if they don't, then I move on to the next thing. And that I just trust it. It just feels like it was always supposed to be like that.
That's great.
I have a hard time controlling my face too. It's rough.
Once you get into that zone of playing, you kind of just forget about what you're doing. I understand that completely. So in our last few minutes here, I guess I will ask the big question here. What is your all individual or as the band's message to the world or anyone listening to you?
That's a good question. I think for me the message is that everything's possible. That there's a possibility in it, and that there's a multitude of voices and a multitude of emotions that can happen within one song. And we want to portray a certain human factor and encourage people to, even if they feel like dancing, but their heart is feeling like crying, that they should do both at the same time. And so I think that is communicated in our music at its core. You often see in the audience people crying and dancing at the same time to the same song. And that's really fulfilling. And you know, you just, I don't know, I feel a very, very interesting kinship to history because of that.
If I may interrupt, I think we may get kicked out here in a couple seconds. If you would like to continue the conversation, I can get another link sent to you, or we can simply stop here.
Let's just stop here.
All right, sounds good to me. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for answering my questions. I'm sorry?
All right.
I said you're so welcome.
I hope to see you